Some breaking news for you. According to Christine Brennan of USA Today Sports, the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games will be postponed, likely to 2021. Conversations in the next few weeks will determine that. This all started yesterday when the Canadian Olympic team said it was not going to go to Tokyo for the Olympics. So another event has been postponed because of the ongoing coronavirus situation. We bring back Lindsay, we bring back Paul, and we welcome in from 60 Minutes and Sports Illustrated, John Wertheim. John, this news just broke with USA Today and Christine Brennan. What's your reaction to the Olympics getting postponed to next year, likely?
Yeah, this was inevitable. I mean, we saw athletic federations coming out against hosting the Olympics in 2020. We saw athletes, including the whole Canadian delegation. This was inevitable. And the big question now is, when will they be held? Because remember, right now, they were supposed to be between Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. In tennis terms now, it's entirely possible the 2021 Olympics might clash with one of the majors. So we'll have to see where this event is going to be. We'll have to see what players are going to be eligible, what tennis is going to do about points accumulated, a lot of decisions here. But this event really was inevitable. There was no way after the events of last week the Olympics could go on in Tokyo, and now it's official.
Yeah, so once again, the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games have been postponed, likely to 2021. Lindsay, you're an Olympic gold medalist, won the gold in '96 in Atlanta. How devastating do you think this is for the players that were training for the past 4 years to have this moment?
No, exactly. And it's so much bigger than our sport in tennis, where the players are lucky. They have 4 majors every single year. In other sports, the Olympics is everything, the end all be all. And to have this happen, of course, in an Olympic year, it's devastating. But I have to think that right now, most of the athletes, or some of them anyway, are maybe a little bit relieved. If you get to the Olympics, you want to be at your best. And sadly, all around the world right now, athletes aren't being able to train as most everybody hopefully is sheltering in place. And that has affected a lot of the preparation. Their health and safety comes first. I'm not sure too many of them wanted to be traveling overseas in a couple of weeks. And all the trials, the Olympic trials, were due to start happening, at least here in the United States, in the next few months. Those were unable to be, we can't have those take place. So I think it's the right decision. Hopefully everybody stays safe and healthy, and hopefully it can happen in 2021. We'll have to see what the rest of this year brings.
Yeah, obviously, one of the big questions, like John brought up, Paul, when would it be scheduled if it's rescheduled for 2021? I mean, this is a massive event involving all of these countries, all these players, tennis specifically. And then the question of, well, what rankings do you use? Do you use the ones from this year? Do you use rankings from next year at some point? What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, it's all about prioritizing what's going on right now. We have so many huge issues to deal with outside of the sports world. And I think it's trickle-down effect. I think this is the right decision. Was kind of incomprehensible to think how they could execute operating the Olympics this summer in Tokyo. So I think you make the decision first, and then you deal with the prioritized issue second. Right now, as we're hearing from everybody, first and most is safe, right? So we want to try to be safe. We want to figure out the ways to move forward. The calendar stuff is going to be so complex. I think tennis even more so than some of the other sports. In a weird way, I feel more heartbroken for those athletes that solely work for the Olympics every 4 years. The tennis players have their tours and have their majors. Some of these other Olympics don't have things of significant magnitude of a Wimbledon, of the U.S. Open, Roland Garros, the Australian, to look forward to. So the calendar will have to be resolved, and right now it's about getting past the immediate dangers and the immediate prioritized issues, and then go from there.
Safety of all the athletes, obviously, of utmost importance. John, I'll send it back to you because you tweeted before this even came out with the likelihood that this would be postponed to next year. Which retirements could potentially get postponed? Were you thinking of anyone in particular? And also, I'll add to that, when do you think, if you were tennis commissioner or Olympic commissioner, would be the best time on the calendar to put this?
Ideally, this will be around the same time, these 2021 Olympics. Remember, though, the Sydney Games, for example, in 2000, that came after the U.S. Open. Same with the Seoul Games in 1998. So who knows? But I think a lot of players have spoken openly, and this ranges from Coco Gauff to Venus Williams. I mean, this is a really special event in tennis, and we know that there are a number of players who are nearing the ends of their career who have pinpointed this event as a real capstone. So tennis players right now, as we've all been talking about, are in a strange position. They're trying to stay in shape, but you can't go out there and play tennis. You're trying to keep mentally sharp, but you don't know what for. You don't know when you're going to get back out there. Maybe, though, this will have the effect of prolonging some careers. So, we all know the names. I mean, Venus Williams will be in her 40s this time next year when these events roll around. Roger Federer will be 39. Serena will be 39. Who knows what the Bryan brothers are choosing to do? But I think we know which players are getting up there in years and have had success in the Olympics before or have spoken about their Olympic ambitions. It will be really interesting to see who shows up. But I think Paul's absolutely right. And Lindsay, too. This event could not have happened in 2020. There's just way too much going on, way too much at risk. And now it's official. But I think most hopeful Olympians, they knew this day was coming.
It's so interesting when you talk about when will the Olympics be held. I mean, we assume that they'll probably schedule it, as you said, John, around the same time. But also, let's keep in mind, the French Open, they shifted their dates, no problem. I mean, at this stage, I think anything goes. If they end up scheduling the Olympics in early July, let's say, Wimbledon will reschedule their dates. And it's such a fluid situation. Nobody wants to miss their event from happening and willing to maybe switch some things around if they have to. But the right decision for all. I hope that we get more Grand Slam tennis in 2020 and later this year. No Olympics. It was going to be a big year in 2020, playing for history. Now, most likely, we got to wait till 2021.
Lindsay, you made some really good points. The interesting thing is, even within our own tennis community, we're having a really hard time communicating to reschedule things. Let's take a breath here and think about the Olympic sports, all the different sports in the Olympic community and all the different governing bodies and national bodies that they're dealing with to try to reschedule. So that is going to be a huge jigsaw puzzle. I think now by postponing, if in fact this is true, this will give them some time to figure out best case scenario, worst case scenario, start communications and figure out ways to execute it so that the Olympics can be operated in a way the athletes can be ready to play and ready to participate in their sports. And that gives people an opportunity to kind of focus and get prepared for something so that they have something to look forward to down the road.
Real quick, before we go to break, I wanted to ask all three of you. Obviously, the Olympics were scheduled to end August 2nd. So tennis not supposed to happen through June 7th. I'll start with you, John, then Lindsay, then Paul. Does this mean in your minds that no tennis through at least August 2nd?
Oh, wow. I mean, I just think there are so many unknowns, and the word unprecedented has just been recorded to death these last few days. I just think right now, who knows? I think we're safe to say there will not be clay court tennis in the spring. After that, I think, we hope for the best. But realistically, yeah, I mean, the facts being what they are today, August 2nd, we'll see when that day arrives.
Yeah, my fingers are crossed very tightly that we get to see the U.S. Open at the end of August. Yeah, Wimbledon might be ready to host the tournament, and the players might want to go there, but it's become a much bigger issue now where governments have to open their borders to everybody, all nations, for these tournaments to be able to go on. Every player has to be able to get into the country. The tournaments don't control that anymore, and we have to hope that, obviously, that the virus clears up, but it's a much bigger issue now than, okay, the players want to play, the tournaments want to host them. There's a lot of different loopholes now for these tournaments to be able to take place. I'd be surprised if we saw tennis before mid-August, and I'd be very, very elated if we did see hardcore tennis here in the States and the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for tennis, and I was talking to a friend of mine in another sport about the situation, our biggest challenge is it's international, it's individual. And so when Lindsay mentions the borders and the possibility of players, fans, umpires, sponsorship people coming in and out from all over the world, that's very different than the NBA starting up again. It's very different in terms of international versus national. So I think with the scope of what's going on right now with the coronavirus, you want to try to give yourself realistic expectations And I think based on all the information that I've seen, my goal would be to play the U.S. Open.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. John, we look forward to hearing from you later on Tennis Channel Live. Once again, the breaking news that just crossed, according to Christine Brennan and USA Today Sports, a veteran International Olympic Committee member, Dick Pound, told USA Today Sports Monday afternoon that the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games will be postponed, likely to 2021.